Skeleton Crew is picking up the pace now as we pass the halfway point of the series, and although we've already learned a lot, there's still many mysteries left, many of them based around Jude Law's Jod Na Nawood. Today, I'm hoping to get to the bottom of whether Jod really has the Force, or if he's one big con artist. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the plan is to take each example of Jod supposedly using the Force and give possible explanations of how he could have achieved the same effect without using the Force, if that's even possible. First up is the easiest example to explain, the moment in the third episode when Jod senses a guard and prisoner coming around the corner. This one could literally be explained by Jod hearing the guard coming, so it's not really a good example of the Force. Especially because KB does the exact same thing without the Force, and the episode explicitly calls this out.
So I guess KB's got the Force too.
The Force flows through us all.
Next is an example which is also quite easy to explain, which is when Jod uses the Force to turn off the lights. This one isn't too hard for Jod to fake, as at this point Jod has had plenty of time to wander around the ship and tinker with it. He absolutely could have rigged something up so that he could remotely turn off the lights. After this is another example from early in episode 3, where Jod uses the Force to create a noise down the corridor and distract the guards. This is something which I'd say isn't impossible without the Force. After all, Jod probably knows the prison area relatively well, and could potentially have rigged something up at a previous point, in case he needed a distraction in order to escape. However, he'd need to be very prepared to pull this off, as it's quite a specific way to prepare for an escape, and I'd say there's probably better distractions he could have rigged up than just a funny noise. Finally, there's the big one. How did Jod move the key? In episode 3, Fern offers some examples as to how he could have done this, but to be honest, I'm not convinced with any of them. She suggests Jod could have used a repulsor lift, a tractor beam, magnets, mirrors, and string. So first there's the repulsor lift. This technology would basically create a repulsor field which would counteract gravity, causing the object to float. It was used in speeders. At a glance this seems promising, but I'm not so sure. I'm sure we would have noticed the technology on the key. And how was Jod controlling it? I can't imagine that Jod was locked in prison without being checked for contraband. Also, how and when did he rig the key? And how did he know which key was the right key to rig? Next, there's the tractor beam. This explanation is also flawed. Although the key itself wouldn't need to be tampered with in this case, Jod would still have to have the technology on him, and I don't even know if the technology comes on small scale. Additionally, when the key moves, it stays at roughly the same height as it travels, and then suddenly moves upward as it reaches Jod's hand. Surely if he was using tractor beam technology, the key would have travelled in one straight line. Now on to magnets. This explanation isn't very strong, as magnets wouldn't behave in the way we saw the key move, as the key didn't travel in one straight line, and it didn't speed up as it approached Jod's hand. The magnet would need to be extraordinarily strong as well. Also, let's not forget that the magnet would need to be in Jod's hand, and we just don't see that in the show. After this is mirrors, which to be honest, I don't understand, as there's no mirrors inside, and I don't see how Jod would make the key appear to float towards himself this way. Finally, there's string, which also doesn't work as a satisfying answer. After all, we saw a lovely close-up of the key, and there was no string inside. Fern and Wim also didn't see string when the key passed them, and Jod didn't appear to be pulling anything. On top of this, the key travels ahead of the keyring in a way that just doesn't look natural for string at all. So that's the solutions the show gives, and to be honest, I've got no ideas myself. This is genuinely a really impressive feat, and I'm convinced that because of this key, Jod absolutely has the Force. This does pose some questions though, most importantly around why he doesn't use the Force more often. After all, we only ever see him use the Force when the kids are around, and not even when he's on his own. I think there's a simple answer here, and that's that he is actually hiding his abilities. I mean, you'd have to be pretty stupid to lock up the Force sensitive right next to the key they need to escape. Also, this would mean that Jod's enemies would underestimate him, which can only be a good thing when dealing with pirates. Also, although we're in the New Republic era now, Jod probably spent many years fearing the Empire as well. As to why Jod doesn't use the Force when alone, that's probably to keep the mystery going within the show, and maybe Jod's just being extra cautious, as recklessness could get him into trouble if he's caught. The kids are the focus of the show as well, so the show does cut away from Jod at different points. Also, I'd say that it's not so much a problem that the kids know about his Force sensitivity, as I'd suspect people would be less inclined to believe them, and who else are the kids even going to run to? All they want is to go home. On top of this, the Force was seemingly required to get out of the prison cell, and was necessary for Jod to get the kids to trust him, so I think that's justifiable to why he would show his abilities. So yeah, my verdict is that Jod is indeed Force sensitive. Let me know what you think in the comments, and whether you have any theories for how Jod could have moved the key without the Force. And we hope to see you later at Vault Holocron.